Good, thanks very much for joining us. Is that right, that it was all sort of started by what appears to have been a fatal car crash, which the people of that part of Cardiff thought was caused by the police?
Well, it was essentially two teenage boys were involved in an e-scooter crash, and suggestions were that the police had been involved in chasing them. That rumour spread on social media very rapidly, and it led to a massive backlash that turned into riots, and people wearing balaclavas started hurling fireworks, concrete blocks, anything they could get their hands on, and they started targeting cars. And you can imagine the people living in Ely were just utterly terrified of these scenes. I mean, it's just all hell broke loose on the streets. It was just utterly horrific.
Yes, it's extraordinary. I mean, it looks like something from one of those American cities, doesn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the situation usually is, nowhere near like that. I mean, you had residents who have lived there for 27 years saying they have never, ever seen anything like this in their whole entire lives. I mean, you've got a situation where innocent people were accused of being undercover police, and they were starting to attack them as well. And clearly today arrests have been made, but we haven't been given a figure for that. But it's just utterly shocking that, you didn't just have people actually in the area of Snowdon Road getting involved, but you had people from across Cardiff who actually travelled across to get involved in this night of violence that went on for 9 hours. It's just utterly unbelievable. I mean, clearly it's tragic that these two teenagers have died, but there is absolutely no excuse for this kind of behaviour at all.
No, quite. And has it been something that started just out of the blue? I mean, were there signs that something like this could happen? Sometimes there's tensions in local areas. I mean, Ely's not a particularly terrible area, is it?
Well, Ely is a deprived area. I mean, they have about 103 crimes per 100,000 people. So it's always been known to have an issue around crime and poverty. However, scenes like this do not happen on a regular basis there. I mean, it's just utterly unbelievable what we're seeing. And it's just today, somebody described it as a war zone, and it's just a total mess. There is glass everywhere. There's debris everywhere. And there are normal, everyday people picking up the pieces of their lives right now. And, they can't afford to be buying new cars and trying to, clear up and look after their homes. And it's just so terrible that this has happened. It should never have happened in the first place. There's just utterly unbelievable, really.
And is the sense that the people doing the violence were from the area, or is it the sense that they came in and were from somewhere else?
There were some people obviously involved from the area, but there were other people from other parts of Cardiff as well. I mean, the police have made clear that this is completely unacceptable, and the culprits will be punished as a consequence of this. I mean, you can't allow such behaviour to take place in the streets of the capital of Wales, to be honest. We can't have that at all, and the police have to clamp down on it. I mean, they've been injured as a result of what went on. I mean, luckily they didn't suffer life-threatening injuries as a consequence of the actions of 150 people basically all converged on this part of Cardiff, and well, the scenes speak for themselves.
And I mean, presumably there'll be fears that something again will happen tonight. What will the police do to try and prevent that?
Well, the police are still there. They haven't left the scene. And clearly, they have a tough job to do. So I can't imagine that they're going to leave the area anytime soon, because they can't afford to at the moment. I mean, given the tensions are running high, and people are very, very scared about what's going to happen next.
Right, exactly right. And as far as the two young men are concerned, do you know many more details about what happened to them?
Well, I mean, all I know at the moment is that, this tragic crash has happened. I mean, I'm sure that families and friends at some point will be speaking out about this. I mean, what their view is, it's bad enough to have to deal with this tragedy as it is without this scale of violence. And I'm sure that, they wouldn't have wanted the violence, and, they are coming to terms with their loss today. It must be incredibly difficult for them.
Yeah, I think it must be, and a very difficult day as well for the people of Ely, I guess, because, they may or may not have lost some form of property in the violence last night, or they might have lost a car. Any number of things are possible.
Absolutely. I mean, they are literally having to come to terms with this utter mess. It's just that, you see the street cleaners out there, the job they've got to do right now is just horrendous. I mean, it's just, I've never seen anything quite like it, honestly. It's you know, I feel very, very sorry for those innocent people who basically are waking up to all of this. I mean, you know, I'm sure there's many of them weren't able to get to sleep in the first place because of the noise and just so fearful in terms of what was going on. I mean, they were inundating the police with calls. It was just, well, you can see it for yourself. It's horrendous, really, isn't it, just?
Yeah, it really is. And, I mean, are feelings running higher between the police and the community in any other areas?
Well, at the moment, it's difficult to say. I mean, clearly, these people have come from different parts of Cardiff. I know that there are areas in the city where the police are not exactly loved by the locals there, and that is because there is elements of crime there. But, you know, there is obviously tensions with police in different parts of the UK as well. So, I mean, unfortunately, it's not unique to Cardiff, and I'm sure that Cardiff wouldn't want that reputation on the back of this situation, because clearly this does not happen every day.
No. Well, let's just hope that it doesn't happen anymore and we have a peaceful night. But Liz, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. Liz Perkins, the reporter for the South Wales Evening Post. It's not clear, as the police have said this morning, what the link is between the crash and the disorder. Alan Michael says this. He's the police commissioner for South Wales. He says it would appear that there were rumours, and those rumours became rife of a police chase, which wasn't the case. And I think it illustrates the speed with which rumours can run around with the activity that goes on social media nowadays, and that events can get out of hand. I think that's right. It's obviously not the case that the police were chasing these kids, because they've said they weren't, so they've denied that. But as for what happened, anybody's guess as to whether it will happen again, whether it's a sort of unruly crowd, an unruly mob who've just taken it upon themselves to have a go at the police. Some people like doing that, and if it's a hot day, a hot night, sometimes tempers can get a little bit spicy. 0344 499 1000. If you were there, if you were caught up in it, by all means give us a call and let us know what it was like. And if you know any more about precisely what happened, also do let us know. We'll take your calls on all manner of things. We'll talk a bit about Just Stop Oil and why the police are arresting the wrong people. This is TalkTV.